Hare Krishna, Namaste, Chapter 18, which is entitled as Sannyasa Yoga. Sloka 33, Part 2. Dhṛtyā yayā dhārayate manaḥ-prāṇendriya-kriyāḥ yogenāvyabhicāriṇyā dhṛtiḥ pārtha sāttvikī. When the obstacles comes in different forms to pull one's manas, prana and indriya towards dharma, artha and kama, at that time that which overcomes that pull and instructs the mind, vital air and senses to continue in the path of devotional service is said to be sāttvikī dhṛti. When one's mind, prana and senses get attached to dharma, artha, kama and becomes firm to pursue in that direction, then that firmness is said to be rājasi dhṛti. When one's mind, vital air and senses pursue firmly into sleep, arrogance, sorrow, fear, then it's said to be tamasi dhṛti. This is what we learned in our previous introductory session. Now let's understand the meaning of this sloka to know more about sāttvikī dhṛti. Pārtha, Arjuna, O son of Pṛthā, yogena, with yoga practice, yoga as means of worship of Krishna to attain him. So the goal of yoga here is moksha, to attain the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, whereas in rājasic dhṛti is oriented towards the other three goals, dharma, artha and kama, not towards moksha. Avyabhicāriṇyā, without any break. Vyabhichara means mind wanders into other things, as we said earlier, towards dharma, artha and kama, righteousness, economic development and pleasures. Whereas avyabhicāriṇyā means mind is focused without any flickering thoughts on the lotus feet of the Lord, just to attain him. While hearing this audio, if we let our mind wander in different ways, then it is said vyabhicāriṇyā. While listening to this audio, parallelly trying to check messages, respond to messages, emails, that means our mind is distracted. It's not fully focused. In other words, there's a mix of activity happens at the same time. That mixing of activities, which brings in some breaks in the flow of hearing, is said to be vyabhicāriṇyā. When there is no break, when there is no mix, when we do an activity, as well known as multitasking, focusing only on one activity, focusing only on one goal, that is said to be avyabhicāriṇyā. Breaking the flow of process from our goal to something else is said to be vyabhicāriṇyā, and fixing our mind towards that which is dharma, artha, kama, then that is said to be rājasi dhṛti. Then one may ask, what about multitasking within the process of bhakti in Krishna consciousness? Not towards other material activities, but 2 or 3 activities which are recommended in the process of bhakti. For example, I am chanting and reading something related to Krishna, or I am listening to a lecture at the same time I am chanting my rounds. It's all devotional service. Then that shouldn't be a problem, right? it is certainly a problem. This is another trick of the mind. We first start doing multitasking within devotional service in bhakti, and then gradually the mind will pull us from one to another one, to another one, to another one, and finally, before we realize, we will be reading or watching or hearing to material things while we are doing chanting, for example. Therefore, it is always best to focus on one activity at a given time, and that is called focus. Going back to our same example of hearing this audio recording, when we are hearing for 10-20 minutes, unless and until anything comes as an emergency, we continue hearing. Or if there is something that requires our attention, then the best thing is to pause the audio and resume when we can dedicate our time in hearing. This is an example, but this can be applied in all that we do to get a better performance and good result. So when the obstacle comes, we overcome the obstacle by retaining our focus towards Krishna in our devotional service. That is said to be sāttvikī dhṛti. When we take detour and get into material things and fix ourselves over there, then it is said to be rājasī dhṛti. When there is a wrong thing, undesirable thing comes on our way and we abide to such things, fix ourselves in that, then it is said to be tāmasī dhṛti. A person who is sāttvikī dhṛti will not deviate from his focus. He is very firm not to detour from his path and not to abide to wrong things. And that is said here, unbreakable. How he is able to do this? Yayā dhṛtyā, perseverance, firmness, determination, holding one's mind towards the goal of attaining the Supreme Lord, holding one's prana, the vital air, towards the purpose of attaining the Supreme Lord. Likewise, holding one's indriyas, the senses, towards the purpose of attaining the Supreme Lord only. This is called perseverance. dhṛtyā. Yogena, to attain the fruit of yoga, which is the means to liberation. manaḥ-prāṇendriya-kriyāḥ, the functions of the mind, vital air, and the senses. dhārayate, one sustains, by which one fixes and sustains their mind, prana and indriya. Sa, that, dhṛtiḥ, determination, that determination, firmness, sāttvikī, said to be in the mode of goodness. Translation: O son of Pṛthā, that determination which is unbreakable, which is sustained with steadfastness by yoga practice, and which thus controls the activities of the mind, life, and senses, is determination in the mode of goodness. manaḥ-prāṇendriya. Mana means mind, prana means the pranavayu, indriya means the five senses. When a person performs yoga, these three are under control. As one becomes matured in the practice of yoga, one will be able to extend their duration of keeping these three under control. Initially, to sit and focus could be difficult, even for a minute. By practice, one will be able to do it for a minute, and further practice will be able to do it for 5 minutes. That increase to half an hour, 1 hour. He is able to focus and meditate upon the beautiful form of the Lord for longer duration. Then over the period, even if that person is not physically involved in performing yoga, that is, even during non-yoga period, his thoughts will be fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord. These three things, mind, prana and indriyas, very closely connected. The mind should aim at continuous contemplation of Krishna. For that, the pranayama, when performed properly, removes the difficulties and sins, abstracting the practice of yoga to control the mind. When this happens, the indriyas also comes under control. When one is not engaged in meditation during the non-meditation period, the indriyas should be kept busy in devotional service. As much as possible, we should not let the senses take any break from Krishna consciousness. When we have free time, we listen to lectures, we study about Krishna, we chant extra rounds of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, or get engaged in physical services, trying to withdraw our mind and senses from the mundane things and focusing inward towards Krishna is known as pratyahara. When one tries to control the manaḥ-prāṇendriya towards Atma or Paramatma is called pratyahara. Prati means towards Atma, Paramatma. Aharanam means pulling back towards Atma, Paramatma. How long should we continue doing this one? This practice of pulling our mind, prana, indriya from other things until our death. Why until our death? Because we are not used to it. Our mind to go behind the material thing, our prana to go behind the material thing, and our indriyas to go behind the material things, we don't need to put any effort. We have mastered that area. We can do it. Our mind, prana, indriya can easily do it. But for our mind, prana and indriya to focus towards Atma and Paramatma is something new, as it has not done that before. Therefore, it requires a lot of perseverance, practice. Thinking about our body, we always do that. Thinking about our soul, we hardly do that. Thinking about our body is very easy. Thinking about Atma is very difficult. When we say Atma, we can extend to Paramatma as well. So the question is, how do I pull the mind from mundane things? It is by instructing the mind about the dosha, the faults that present in the material things, including our body, and instructing the mind about the greatness of Atma and Paramatma. It is said, Yatra manaḥ tatra vāyuh, Yatra vāyuh tatra manaḥ. Where the mind is situated, that's where the Vayu will be. Where the Vayu is located, that's where the mind will be. This mind is a substance, is a dhṛtyā, like how earth, water, fire, air, ether, all these are substances. Mind is also a substance because it's a byproduct of the Pṛthā, the Mūla Prakriti. From Mūla Prakriti we get Mahan. From Mahan comes Ahankara, which is Sāttvikā Ahankara, Rājasa Ahankara and Tamasa Ahankara. 5 Jnanendriya and 5 Karmendriya plus Manasa comes from Sāttvikā Ahankara. 5 Tanmatra and 5 Bhutas comes from Tamasa Ahankara. Whereas Rājasa Ahankara helps both Sāttvika and Tamasa Ahankara. As we see that mind is actually coming from the Prakriti. Therefore, the mind is also a substance, dhṛtyā. Interestingly, this mind, which is a substance, is controlled or influenced by a non-substance, adhrāvya. That is nothing else other than three gunas, sattva guna, rajo guna and tamo guna. As the Moola Prakriti always has these gunas, and its byproducts also inherits those gunas. So, if we want to control our mind, which is a dhṛtyā substance, we have to reduce the influence of the three gunas, which is adhrāvya, non-substance, towards the mind, which is dhṛtyā. How we see things of this world at a given time is completely proportionate to how our mind is set at that given time. If our mind is predominantly in sattva guna, then we see things differently in sattva. If our mind is predominated by rajoguna, then we are going to see things in the mode of passion. If our mind is dominated by tamoguna, then we are going to see things in mode of ignorance. Let's see the flow here. The jnana that Atma possesses, the consciousness, travels from the Atma, reaches the junction called mind. Over there, the jnana get coated and travels to the next junction called indriyas. From there, it goes and touches the external object. Let's take an example to make this easy. Take an example of a candy industry, a simple candy industry. The base of the candy remains same. When that candy is passed through an instrument, the instrument coats that candy with white color, or coats it with red color, or coats it with yellow color. Likewise, when the jnana travels from Atma to the mind, the dominated guna at that point of time in the mind will coat the jnana. The jnana becomes sāttvika jnana if sattvika guna is what prominent at that given time in the mind. Likewise, the jnana gets coated with rajasa guna and becomes rajasa jnana. Likewise, when the tamasa guna is prominent in the mind, then the jnana that travels through the mind becomes tamasa jnana. One may ask, so what? Well, that makes a big difference. If it is sattvika jnana which travels out of mind through the senses, then that which it sees will also be in sattvika guna. That which hears will also be sattvika. If it is rajasa jnana, then obviously everything that's seen, heard, taste, etc. will turn into rajasa. Likewise, one perceives things as tamasa if the knowledge travels out is tamasa jnana. The object that which is being cognized could be the same object, but that can be perceived differently based on the jnana, the consciousness that travels out through our senses. When the mind is dominated by sattva guna, when that sattvika jnana travels through our eyes, sees a woman, will consider her to be like his mother. If the jnana is coated with rajasa, travels through the eyes, sees the same woman, then he sees her to be for his pleasure. When the jnana is coated with tamoguna, then that person is totally blinded and get into any kind of abominable activity. So this mind, which is a dhṛtyā substance, is influenced by the three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas, which are adravya, non-substance. There are other things which are also adravya. Besides these three, they are shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha, which makes it 8, 3 plus 5, 8. And the other two are samyoga, conjunction, and the last one is shakti, potency. We have learned about the 8 sattva, rajas, tamas, shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha already. Samyoga, conjunction, and shakti, potency are not subject for our discussion here. So we will skip them now. So now comes a very important question. Dravya, which is manasa, which is influenced by adravya, the three gunas, how can we control the adravya, sattva, rajas and tamas, in such a way the mind is dominated only by sattva guna, not by rajas and tamas? This very easily happens in Krishna consciousness by eating food which is sattvik, by hearing message which is sattvik, by speaking things which are sattvik, by smelling things which are sattvik, and by touching things which are sattvik, we increase sattva guna, and rajoguna, tamoguna will reduce naturally. When we eat not just sattvik food that is offered to Krishna, and when we hear message which is sattvik, not just stating that we are God, but we are servant of God, and when we engage our tongue in chanting the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When we smell the tulasi that is offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, and when we touch the beautiful divine form of the Lord, we engage all our senses, and that increases the sattva guna and reduces rajas and tamas. Engaging ourselves in Krishna consciousness and taking up devotional service seriously is the only easy way to take control of this adravya, sattva, rajas and tamas. There is no other easy way. There is no other easy way. There is no other easy way other than becoming Krishna conscious. When one fixes up their mind in this process, not getting distracted or attracted by other things, keeping one and only goal to attain Krishna, willing to face any challenges, obstacles, difficulties that may constantly pop up in this journey, but not to give up our devotion, our bhakti, our Krishna consciousness, is said to be sāttvika dhṛti. Hoping that we understood what is sāttviki dhṛti, the next rajasi dhṛti and tamasi dhṛti will be easy to grasp. dhṛtyā yayā dhārayate manaḥ-prāṇendriya-kriyāḥ yogenāvyabhicāriṇyā dhṛtiḥ pārtha sāttvikī. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Namaste. Hare Krishna.